One more time. And then you go back in your room.
There are over 7 million mentally ill and emotionally disturbed children in America. This program is about some of those children and the institutions they live in. Children of Darkness, next on Nonfiction Television. This program is made possible by a grant from the Independent Documentary Fund, which is supported by the National Endowment for the Arts, the Ford Foundation, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and public television stations, with additional funding from the following.
Oh God, they dropped it. Oh God. Oh, John Wax, you better stop that truck. John Wax, you better stop that truck. I'm going for bus! It's gonna kill my motherfucking dog, my dad. I'm gonna kill you.
Brian suffers from mania and schizophrenia. He's been this way since he was 4 years old. Brian lives here at Eastern State School and Hospital in Trevose, Pennsylvania. 160 children live with him. They're psychotic, schizophrenic. They suffer from organic brain damage and autism. Some are hyperactive, some totally withdrawn. Some are suicidal.
I was trying to kill myself so I could be with my mother. That may be hard to understand, but I feel as though once you're dead, you'll be able to be with the other people that are also dead. I love her a lot. And I don't even know her, and that's what's so funny. Like, 'cause I was so young when she died. I don't even know what she looks like or anything. But I just wish she was alive. I have an identity problem. My mom died, my father took off on me, and it hurts. It hurts a lot.
When you started cutting at yourself, what was going on inside your head?
I just wanted to die to be with my mom. I didn't care no more. I didn't care about nobody no more.
Don't get me sweat.
I'm not going to get you sweaty. I just want you to lay down.
Lay down, Mark.
Because I think you need to relax.
Okay.
You're a little bit upset, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'll be outside the door if you need me, okay?
That's a dentist's office.
It's a dentist's office.
Hi, doctor.
Do you know what's going on with him? What's the matter with him?
You know what's going on?
Not really. Brian is...
It's kind of scary. It's falling, the cottage is falling down.
Brian's a very psychotic young man, and
Mark.
so like I said, he was doing really, really well up until about a month or so ago, and he started just regressing, going completely the opposite way. And it's like he's coming unglued. And tomorrow night we have a van ride. All right. And if you're good and if you feel better, maybe we'll take you out on the van ride.
Okay.
All right.
You're gonna stay back with me, Brian. You're not gonna go to the canteen.
Oh, no!
You don't have any money, Brian.
Brian.
Settle down, Brian. Come on.
Now settle down. That's it. You breathe.
Here.
That's it.
Come on, lay down on your bed.
All right. Come on. Brian, no, you're not going to take this over. Come on.
Well, Brian, you want us to take it out of your room?
No!
Come on. I want you to lay down. Come on. I want you to...
Yeah, you're getting
Brian,
yourself.
you're getting all worked up. Come on. Come on.
I want to get out of here, some steak! I want to get out of here! Hi, Brian.
I look forward to every Sunday for Brian. It's my day. Sunday is my day.
Sunday's the day Jim McAnally and his son have spent together for the past 4 years. It's the day Brian gets to go home. Most Sundays, Linda Nixon comes along too. She grew up next door to Brian, and he likes to think of her as his girlfriend. Mr. McAnally lost his leg in an automobile accident when he was 19. Now he's 70 years old and has had 2 serious strokes. When Brian's illness became too much for him to handle, Jim had to give him up to the hospital. But for the first 14 years of Brian's life, Jim raised him in this house in East Philadelphia.
A good portion of the time I see him as potential sources of aggravation for me. There's nobody that I'm dealing with that I love. And just to be sure that I don't feel any sort of attachment like that, I just go to the opposite extreme. I still have a hard time seeing the people I'm dealing with as people.
Andrew had no control over his tremors now, the muscle spasms. His eyes rolled back in his head. And now the staff had second thoughts about him faking a reaction to the drugs. So they gave him more medication to try to control the side effects. By that time, though, drugged and tied down, what had happened to Anthony Ruggieri and Judy Singer before was happening now to Andrew Zamora. And at 4:45 p.m., he was dead.
If I said they killed him, would I be wrong?
That indicates to me a deliberate attempt on the part of the staff.
If I said they let him die, would I be wrong?
That you would not be wrong.
I tried for 8 years putting in reports about that place. And I just quit because it fell on deaf ears. No one wanted to hear it. We have had patients hang themselves in a 6-foot closet. 2 of them. They just walked inside the closet, tied something around their neck, put it on the hook, and just sat down and hung themselves to death. Where was the staff?
For over 100 years, Britain's mentally ill were hidden from society in vast Victorian asylums. Those who were locked away have left their own testimony.
I remember getting the first glimpse of the hospital. It's a big looming place with a clock tower and that, and I remember then thinking, oh my goodness, what am I letting myself in for?
In the last decades of the asylums, psychiatrists tried to cure as well as care for patients. Some of their attempts were barbaric.
It was a disaster. They made a hole in the skull, it went into the brain, and it waggled it a bit, and that was it.
This was a time when treatment was undergoing a revolution. Some patients felt science was being pushed too far.
He switched the probe on and burnt a piece of my brain out.
These institutions had to be shut down. When it happened, it was a moment of history that changed Britain. This is the story of the closing of the asylums and the often troubled lives they left behind.
Their families had abandoned them, and there was no one to support them outside the institutions, even in the 1950s.
Some patients ended up in the asylums for a very long time.
This patient used to be a skilled gardener. He came here 35 years ago. And here's an old soldier. He fought in the 1418 war.
Many patients were admitted on genuine medical grounds, some of them easily treatable outside hospital nowadays. It meant passing an electrical current through the brain to induce a seizure. It seemed to ease the symptoms of severe depression in some patients, though psychiatrists could not explain how it worked.
We put the wires here and here, and then we switch on, and then you'll go into a fit, have an epileptic fit.
Whole ECT units were set up so that patients could be treated in large numbers. Until the early 1950s, The procedure was carried out largely without anaesthetic.
A member of staff...
I suppose I always feel angry about it, but I just don't let it get in my way. I can't, can I? I've got to get on with my life, haven't I? If I started dwelling on feeling anger all the time, my life wouldn't be worth living, would it?
When I'm building Legos, I feel like I can create my own world and kind of go into that place where, you know, everything is based on my rules. There's really no way of telling what I would be like if I didn't have progeria. I wish I could ride any roller coaster I wanted to ride, like, ever. Like, I wish I could, like, you know, do loop-de-loops and corkscrews and stuff and barrel rolls. Even though I'm, like, terrified of them, it would be, like, cool to know that I could try them out.
Your drugs are in the bathroom.
Okay. Can you hold my book while I brush my teeth?
Yep. I got your socks too.
Okay.
People will say things like, I don't know if I could do this. And my answer to them is, yes, you could. You can. Mothers can do anything. You do what you need to do because you know that you're not the most important person in the room. The most important person in the room is the child sitting in front of you. That's really the bottom line. That doesn't come from just my brain. That comes from my heart. That comes from my soul. And that's what drives me.
Love you, Mama. I love you, too.
Have a great day, buddy.
Thank you. So,
see you after school.
Yeah.
I'm an optimistic person, but if you were said what's the worst thing that could happen to you, certainly as a parent, is to be told your son has a condition that there's nothing you can do about. I mean, isn't that the worst thing that could possibly happen to a parent? To be told that you have a child for which there's nothing that can be done, that there is a certain outcome, that he or she will live, you know, that he or she will live 13 or 14 years on average, and that will be it. So, you know, what do? We're well aware of the prognosis, but you know what? We're going to stay optimistic, because why wouldn't we be? I mean, what are we going to do? Like, go into a shell and say, well, we don't really know what's going to happen, so we're not going to live?
When Sam was diagnosed with progeria in 1998, there was nothing out there. There was no research going on, no treatment, no cure, no foundation to go to. I scanned these at Rhode Island Hospital. That won't be good enough quality. You want to do it yourself? Now we have the team, we've got the experts, we've got people who know more about progeria than anybody else in the world.
So this is what we found, and this is the heart disease of a 65-year-old, and it looks very similar to what you're seeing here. His skin is a little bit like, this is what I see when I see the younger kids with progeria.
It was developed for other diseases with protein abnormalities that are similar to what we see in progeria.
That was really a powerful reality check for us.
The only way to really find out, is this drug going to be helpful for children with progeria, is to give it to children with progeria. Time is passing. We're just in a race. Progeria is one of the rarest diseases in the world. This is a disease that affects 1 in 4 million children. That means in the entire world, somewhere between 200 and 250 kids with progeria are living today. Progeria is caused by one single tiny change in the DNA. It's a C to a T. That's it. And it causes an abnormal protein called progerin to be created. Proteins need to fit into each other correctly in order to make the right scaffolding to build the human being. Progerin acts at downstream huge effect on cells and on organs and on the whole body that causes disease. Progerin builds up over time. It's in the organs that are affected by aging.
It all started with a cup of coffee. They were both going to Brown, both medical students, and they met. They were doing a project together, and after the project, my mom was sitting in her little office thing at her desk, and my dad came in and he says, "Hey, you want a cup of coffee?" So they both had coffee together, and they got married in 1993 on October 10th. And they had me in 1996 on October 23rd.
It just came from my soul, like something is going on here, and it was incredibly frustrating. Finally, a brilliant friend and colleague of ours came up with this idea that Sam might have progeria.
I immediately went over to the medical library and looked up progeria and saw pictures in there, and these were pictures of my son. I mean, they weren't pictures of my son, but they could have been. That's when it really struck me.
I didn't know if I believed it, but I also didn't know how to necessarily evaluate that.
The winner of the Francis T. Toomey Award for this year is Sam Burns.
Thank you so much, yeah. I can't see anything. Yeah, I know, really. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so proud. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Thank you so much. Go Bruins! Hey!
Oh, that was a good one.